Hi everyone, today we're dealing with plenty of sunlight. That's a very rare occurrence where I live. And I will talk to you about dimensions. Or dimensions. I was never too sure, but I can get away with murder not being a native speaker. Dimensions. So, you will hear a lot of people talk about these as if these were different worlds. And you will see similar concepts propagated by pop culture, that someone steps through a mysterious portal and winds up in a world that's pretty much like ours, but slightly different. Oh, completely different. That doesn't matter. Pretty much like ours. I mean, 3 dimensions, height, width, depth, time flowing forwards, people speaking English, that sort of stuff. So that's the pop culture. It's not dimension. This is what I call parallel reality. All right. When we talk about dimensions, the best way to start thinking about these is to think about time. It's a dimension through which we move in a constant direction, constantly forwards. And there are even hypotheses that there are mirror universes just like ours, where time is flowing backwards, which would be super unhygienic, come to think of it. So time moving forwards. And if you imagine the same happens to altitude, that through our lives we're constantly going up and there's no way to go down, right? Bubbling up. We start realizing that time is just the fourth dimension. All right, where do we go from here? It's pretty difficult to imagine additional dimensions. And there are plenty of great videos describing it from kind of more scientific point of view. And this is definitely a perspective that I would very much encourage to pursue, to discover, to dig into. The reason for that is if we maintain discipline in our thinking in regards to what these are about, it will be much easier to communicate complex concepts that are outside what our monkey brains can hold. Our brains were designed for 3-dimensional space, let's face it. We didn't need any more because our survival, our continuation of our species requires just this, just interfacing with our reality, getting food, and all that. And the rest is extra. I should use a piece of paper. Okay, here's a piece of paper, and imagine that people living on it are 2-dimensional. I could probably draw a stickman, but you know what? I won't. You'll just imagine that there's a stickman drawn on it. There you go. And they live in their 2-dimensional world. They cannot perceive what's up and down. They just are into left and right, and that's about it. They could probably interact with... Oh no, I just warped their dimension. Warp drive, they speculated it works like this, right? Yeah, more on that later, probably. So, 2-dimensional creatures. Now, imagine what happens if a 3-dimensional creature like this plasticine sphere interfaces with their world. What they would see is just a tiny representation, reflection of what this 3D sphere is on their 2D world. So, and this will be important later, right? So, if these 2D folks are trying to say, why do I think kill? But let's say they're trying to kill this three-dimensional sphere, they will kill only tiny sliver of it, only tiny 2D representation of it, right? It may be important to the rest, but that doesn't have to. Anyway, so if you think of us as trying to interface with other dimensions, this is what happens. We have a difficulty of thinking outside our 2D because our senses are not tuned into regarding other dimensions. We don't even have words for it. There's no way we can communicate about these, because communication happens within confines of our language. We could try to communicate ideas as emotions, feelings, something outside language, but whenever this happens, this communication is less than perfect because it is not verifiable whether the representation of reality we're trying to convey has been represented in somebody else's head the same way it is in ours. Right? There's no communication feedback. If I write something in, say, Russian to you, and you don't understand how to read Russian, for you it's a very complicated drawing. And if you try to copy it, and then what? I could verify that whether you did correctly, but in this case, in case of trying to convey ideas non-verbally, this is already undoable. Okay, anyway, going back to the concept of dimensions, there is one that I really need to highlight. It is something called vibration, and you'll hear it a lot, not only from me, from plenty other people that deal with all sorts of meditation energies and stuff. They will say vibration. I will explain it as the emotional state of your mind. Yeah, we'll go with that definition for now. Before we can effectively use it, we have to kind of explain what mind is and how it exists within time. But I don't think we need it for now. Actually, for our purposes, right now, it will be perfectly sufficient to understand the mind as what exists now. Okay. So the emotional state of the mind, think of the 2D world that we talked about, that this is our world. And without becoming, say, multi-dimensional person, we still can ascend or descend in relation to the plane of existence that's generally considered normal. That's a bad way of putting it, but you know what I mean. We can ascend or descend depending on the emotional state of our mind. Our reality changes because its perception changes. It's not that you can grow another hand by believing in it. It probably tricky. No. But by changing your perception of that concept, you can see the hands you have as perfectly sufficient and see yourself as more than you are, than you've seen yourself before, right? See yourself as a part of ecosystem, for example. So this kind of vibrational, emotional state of mind has different, not flavors, different intensities. You probably experienced it during meditation, that if you tune yourself into vibration of gratitude, to the emotion of gratitude, stuff changes. If you kind of smile at yourself kind of inwardly and radiate that joy and gratitude, you tune in into some sort of vibrational field that, and there's where language fails. All right, you know what? I'm just gonna cut it short. Too long didn't read version is different dimensions are not parallel realities. They are different altitudes in our reality. A creature that exists in 5 dimensions will still see our trees as the same trees. Kind of. We'll see all of their instances across the timelines. Well, yeah. It's one thing. Vibration is emotional state of mind, and I would like you to see vibration as additional dimension. Alright? See yourself traveling up or down within another dimension as you change your emotional state of mind. Okay, I hope I made any sort of sense. Thanks for being here.